and thank you for joining us. Our focus today is on the 2023 European Commission's reports for the Western Balkans. We will explore the challenges, priorities, and also potential improvements on the Commission's reporting. I am Anesa Omeragić. I'm Events and Communication Manager at the European Policy Center, CEP, Belgrade-based think tank, and with me today is Srđan Majstorović. Srđan is chairman of the CEP's governing board, and Srđan is also coordinator for the Intersectoral working group on political criteria. Srđane, welcome.
Hi Anesa.
Before we delve deeper into the report's content, I would like to discuss the circumstances that led up to its publication. This year's reports were published 1 month later than the previous years. So why is that? What do you think?
I think this is the reason for that is of a broader, I would say, historical circumstances, and it's very suiting that we are discussing these circumstances on the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, the very historical event that enabled the EU to become integrated and connected again. And obviously the historical circumstances that I'm referring to with regards this year's postponement of the Commission's annual report and enlargement package, the whole package of documents, was the fact that for the first time the EU is actually discussing the enlargement once again. The enlargement topic has returned in a way at the agenda of the European Union. Obviously, the geopolitical reality caused by the Russian aggression on Ukraine contributed to this point, and obviously the Russian intention to occupy Ukraine and to, in a way, diminish its international sovereignty led to a completely different effect, making Europe trying to find a way how to reunite again. So this year, obviously, instead of 6 Western Balkan countries and Turkey, we had reports prepared and published for the 3 Eastern European countries, Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia. And the results of these reports are recommendations to start the accession talks with Moldova and Ukraine, which is of tremendous, I would say, historical importance for Europe in general. The recommendation for Georgia to get the candidacy status, and not to be forgot, recommendation for Bosnia and Herzegovina to start the accession talks. So everything that I described obviously contributed to the need to broader consultations. There were a lot of obviously technical work in preparation of the reports for 10 countries. But there was also a lot of political discussion about how to approach this historical moment and how to put all the wheels of enlargement in motion.
When it comes to the region, you mentioned the recommendation for Bosnia and Herzegovina, but what are the most critical challenges that the Commission mentioned when it comes to our Western Balkan region? What issues did they emphasize as the most pressing for our region?
Unfortunately, I would say that the region itself is in not the best shape that it can be, obviously. There are a lot of difficulties with regards the fundamental issues, those issues which are of utmost importance for candidates who wants to join the EU. What exactly that means? It means that majority of the countries in the region basically fail to prove the political commitment to change their political systems, to modernize their societies, to establish modern institutions capable of delivering the services required to their citizens. And that can be best seen in the areas of judicial reform, function of democratic institutions, fight against corruption, organized crime. These are problems which are very much present in each of the Western Balkan 6 countries. And in an ironical sense, one could say that the best organized group in the region when it comes to regional cooperation is organized crime, which is flourishing. I'm sorry to say that. And in these circumstances, obviously, the region as a package of 6 countries who are dedicated to the EU accession at this moment is not proving what would be the best, or rather is not providing the best picture of the future member states. Mind you, within the EU itself has issues and problems with its own member states, and there is a serious lack of appetite for the import of insufficiently prepared and reformed countries. So yeah, the picture could have been much better, bearing in mind that this process lasts for more than 20 years now.
Regarding Serbia, we know the issue with the chapter 31, let's say that. Last year we had backsliding for the first time ever in that chapter, and we saw the significance of the chapter 31 following the Russian aggression on Ukraine. This year we don't have backsliding, right? Can you say something about can Serbia expect to advance towards the EU without aligning its foreign and security policy? And why did we have a backsliding last year and we don't have backsliding this year?
Well, I will start from the back and from your last question. I would dare to say that there is a quantitative result that supports European Commission's finding that there was no backsliding. But qualitatively wise, the foreign policy of the Republic of Serbia have not improved. And that is obviously referring to the alignment with the measures against Russia, but not exclusively Russia, some other countries as well. And obviously, the government of Serbia in that approach is being led by the position of certain countries towards the independence, or rather recognition of independence of Kosovo. So in that sense, the Chapter 31, which is dedicated to common foreign security policy, grade or findings could be easily predicted, I would say, even before the publishing of the report. If we would be cynical, we could also hypothetically ask ourselves, if the last year Serbia was backsliding and this year there is no progress, does this mean that Serbia continued to backslide? Yeah. So it's a quite a complicated situation, and hopefully with the elections which are forthcoming at the end of this year, Serbia will get the government which is going to be more committed to the EU integration process and capable of articulating its value-based foreign policy and get the foreign policy aligned with the European Union positions.
Let's talk a little bit about this functioning of democratic institutions. You already mentioned that. As a coordinator of the NAKEOS Intersectoral Working Group for Political Criteria, what is your assessment of Commission's assessment of this area? What did they say, and how do you find the situation of this area in the Western Balkans countries?
I think European Commission had provided a very objective picture of the state of play when it comes to parliamentary life in Serbia. And this is not a rosy picture, it's quite the contrary. It's a very chilling reminder of an institution that was completely robbed out of its purpose. We need to remind ourselves the purpose of the parliament is to provide a space for discussion of people who are representing different groups of citizens of this country. It's a place where one branch of the power, the legislative power, should apply an oversight and control the government, the executive branch of the power. This is not a case in Serbia. And the portrait and the picture that was painted in the Commission's report is pretty much in line with what National Convention on the EU, the Intersectoral Group for Political Criteria had produced. This is, as I said, far from flattering. The level of division in this body, the language which is used, the abuse of procedures, the lack of respect to the code of conduct. These are all very, very worrying sign of a deep crisis of an institution that is not performing the duties which have been prescribed by the Constitution of Serbia.
European Commissions, following the new methodology, put a really strong focus on functioning of democratic institutions and political criteria. That is part of Cluster 1, fundamentals. But we see that Commission does not have assessment of this area, of indicators in this area. For 33 chapters for public administration reform, for economic criteria, there are assessments, but for this area, not. With one of our research that is funded by Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Italy, we noticed that some of the indicators that Commission mentioned, including one whole area, which is civilian oversight of security forces, completely is missing from 3 country reports. So there are significant inconsistencies in how Commission talks about political criteria in different countries, and there is no assessment. Do you think Commission could benefit by including assessment in future reports, or do you think it's not possible to give the same assessment as it is for the chapters and other criteria?
There is first of all, there is a question of how do you grade the democracy in certain societies. This is not an easy question. We have to be honest. But this is why we have research institutes. This is why we have think tank organizations, civil society organizations who are taking care of these areas and who are thinking of the ways how to produce indexes and numerical grades, how to come up with a proper methodological tool how to measure progress or regressing, backsliding in these particular areas. And this is why I'm highly I would highly appraise the work of our colleagues who produced this paper, and I would recommend our viewers to take a look at their work. I think there is a lot of food for thought, and I think that the European Commission may benefit a lot from engaging with our researchers and discuss details of how to improve the methodology of reporting on political criteria. There are a lot of very distinguished and well appraised international indexes of who are dealing with the same issue, but somehow even they differ in methodological toolkit that they're using. So yeah, this is a big topic, and I'm very happy that European Policy Center has recognized, first of all, the importance of this, and is contributing to the discussion. So yeah, it's time to discuss.
As you said, there are very, very different institutions and very different indexes, and CEP has recognized that a mixed approach is the best in this area, and it aligns the best with how Commission how Commission writes about this topic. We used 3 reports: it's Freedom House Nations in Transit, Freedom House Freedom in the World, and also WIDEM Democracy Report. And following this research, we found out that North Macedonia and Montenegro are the best graded when it comes to democracy in the region, and they're followed by Kosovo and Albania, leaving Bosnia and Herzegovina and Serbia in the back. But grades are not that different. North Macedonia is best rated by, I think, 3.54, or Serbia is rated by 3, Bosnia maybe 2.94. So they are very similar, around 3, all countries. Do you think this is really how it is? It's really true situation in the region? How we stand when it comes?
I think that all these indexes, from their own perspective, are obviously providing very valuable inputs. But these are always, based on the personal research, personal assessment, and obviously, the very notion that we don't have a universal index how to measure these issues shows that discussion is still on, that the dialogue is needed, and that hopefully we will find a way how to universally measure these aspects. I know for some other indexes which are showing that Kosovo, for example, is the leading country when it comes to parliamentarianism and respect of democratic principles. So it is obvious that there are different points of view, different perspectives of how different organizations are looking on pretty much the same issues, but from a different perspectives. So there is a need, as I said, to invest time and resources in future research, and perhaps together with the European Commission to come up with some common methodology that might be used in the future.
I would like to draw attention to something which is step, I think, most recognizable these days. That's model of staged accession to the EU. Staged accession model puts a strong focus on fundamentals first approach, which is also EU's approach, and we now see that there is more and more talk by the EU's official about this phased or staged accession to the EU. What do you think is potential impact of this model to the EU's enlargement process?
Personally, I'm very happy that the model that we developed, that our colleagues developed, has caught so much of international attention. Even the group of Franco-German think tanks who were invited by the French and German government to produce a study of how to reform the EU enlargement process, they're also quoting our system. And I'm very proud of it because it was not easy. And from the very start, people were not ready to think out of the box. And this is, I guess, the destiny of all researchers who are trying to think out of the toolkit that is standard and that already exists. So what was important with this model is that it introduces the ways of how to overcome the traps, the pitfalls of the so-called old methodology of the EU accession, and pay particular attention on the fundamental reforms, as you mentioned, but also to move countries, to keep countries in the alert when it comes to horizontal progression. So it's not exclusively vertical phasing in different policies, but rather we are the only model that catches up the horizontal success of the candidates. And this is an added value to the discussion on the future of the enlargement process. Mind you, this report is the last report published by the incumbent European Commission. Next year, after the elections in June, we will have most probably a new commission. We have a very vocal announcement that this is going to be an enlargement commission, the commission that is going to work diligently in preparing both the EU for the future enlargement, but also with the candidate states, helping them to come closer to the European standards and fulfillment of the accession criteria. And in this particular momentum, I think that if not, a general approach of the accession through 4 stages, some aspects of CEPS and European Policy Centers and Center for European Policy Studies model, we should not forget our colleagues from Brussels who also work diligently on development of this method. I'm sure that bits and pieces of this method will find a way in the work plans of the future European Commission.
President of European Council, Charles Michel, recently said that he wants Europe to be ready for enlargement by 2030, and that was also reaffirmed by the Franco-German working group you already mentioned. So what do you think? You are one of the pioneers writing about 2030, excuse me, 1 year before Charles Michel. What do you think? What significance does this year hold? But also I want to ask you, how do you view the statements made by Western Balkans politicians regarding this year?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. I was very annoying and speaking wherever I could, wherever I was invited, about the need to define the time frame for the process. The idea behind the year 2030 is not that everybody will join the EU in 2030. Mm-hmm. The idea is to create a common agenda. The common agenda that will serve both European member states and the European institutions to prepare for the future enlargement, and also to prepare individual action plans, reform programs, whatever you want to call them, for the candidate states in order to focus their political attention on the reforms which are necessary. It's not easy to invest all of your political eggs or your political capital in one basket if you're not certain that there is a time frame for a certain process. Once you know a time frame, it's much easier to focus on the priorities. Even if you want to, as I am, try to lose a weight, you put yourself a certain time frame goals in which you want to achieve those goals. This is why 2030 is important. Whether any of the Western Balkan countries or some of them will join at 2030, 2033, or 4, it's less relevant. The main idea is to focus on the reforms and try to return the trust between the Western Balkan countries, not exclusively, obviously, now with the 3 more Eastern European countries on board, and the European Union member states, that this time we think seriously about the strategic importance of enlargement. Everybody's speaking of, let's put it on the paper, let's sign it, and let's say, okay, whatever we had until now, we will put it for history to be assessed, who was, hypocritical, who was not successful, who was not honest to honor their respect, who did not perform as said that they will. But let's say from now on, we are going to have this agenda, which is going to be a common agenda for the future of Europe. And I think that this is something that is feasible. And even this Franco-German think tank report is mentioning something similar about the need to put something on a paper and promote it as a common goal.
My last question to you is regarding the recent visit of European Commission's President, Ursula von der Leyen. Could you summarize the key points she discussed in those countries, particularly those regarding foreign policy, regional relations, very important topic, and also promised economic benefits?
Yes, there were 2 groups of issues that were mentioned during President von der Leyen's visit to the region. One would be the particular messages to the countries in the region regarding their peculiarities, their specificities of the EU accession process. And obviously in the case of Serbia, that was the message that without resolution of dialogue and normalization with Kosovo, it is very difficult to perceive European future for Serbia and Kosovo as well. The second group of issues that were raised, or rather the issue, was the announcement of the growth plan for the Western Balkans, which is very ambitiously, I would say, announced as a way to bring the countries of Western Balkans closer to the European single market in order to motivate their own economies, to provide certain incentives for the producers in the Western Balkans, but also to provide certain benefits early in the process for the citizens of the Western Balkan countries. This plan is based on the creation of the regional common market that would lead to a closer integration in the single European market. Mind you, this is a market of 450 million inhabitants, so it's a huge market for the products, for the economies of the region that can really contribute to better development in general, economic, social, cultural, whatever you imagine. But also, it should not be neglected that there are two other components of this four-pillar approach. The one is focus on the fundamental reforms, which is going to be a condition for the fourth element of this growth plan, which is additional financial support to the region. I'm concerned that the governments in the region are not ready to read this message without their eyes being wide shut. I think this is a huge opportunity for the region, but I'm not convinced that everybody will read these requirements in the right way. What I mean by that is that the regional economic, or rather regional market, can function only between the equals. And I'm afraid that the status of Kosovo, in the case of Serbia and Kosovo, will be a serious obstacle for both countries to move forward. The regional common market implies free movement of workforce. That will not happen if the politicians in the region are sending messages of hate, of nationalism. So yes, there are a lot of reasons to be concerned, but also additional 2 billion euros of potential investments, plus 4 through the loans, 2 billion of grants, which is cheap, free money, and 4 million of loans, could be a very, very motivating factor for the politicians to move on. It should not be the only reason, obviously. The reason for politicians to move on should be the future of their own societies and the future of the region. Because if we fail to behave in the way that the EU member states are behaving towards each other, that means no borders, free movement of people, nobody asks you if you are of this or that origin or nationality or religious denomination. You're welcome to live and work in our societies. This is the question far more important than just the financial benefit of the growth plan.
Let's hope that our politicians will look at this situation the same way as we do. Thank you, Srđan, for your insightful responses and for providing us with your expertise when it comes to 2023 European Commission's reports for the Western Balkans and for, of course, Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia. And to our listeners, thank you so much for listening to us. If you want to continue this conversation, please follow us on our social media channels and also follow our website. Stay tuned for more engaging discussion, and until next time, goodbye.